Have you ever walked into a room and felt invisible? Not disliked, not rejected, just unseen. Like your presence didn't shift the air. You smiled first, made the effort, asked all the right questions, filled every awkward silence. But something inside whispered quietly, I don't belong here anymore. If that sounds familiar, I want you to know you're not alone. It's one of the hardest feelings to sit with, especially as we get older. You've spent years, maybe decades, giving love, showing up, sacrificing, waiting patiently through storms. And yet somehow, somewhere along the way, it feels like certain people, sometimes even family, have stopped truly seeing you. They may still invite you to dinner. They may still answer your calls. But the warmth, it's gone. The connection has faded. You're no longer embraced. You're tolerated. And the worst part, you keep showing up, hoping today might be different, hoping they'll finally look up and say, we missed you, hoping they'll care the way they once did. But I need to ask you something gently from a place of love. How many more times will you knock on a door that only opens out of politeness? How many more conversations will you stretch to keep alive while they glance at their phone or the clock? How many more smiles will you force while your spirit grows quieter and quieter inside? Many of us were raised to believe that family is everything. That love means giving, even when it's not returned. That loyalty means staying, no matter how overlooked you feel. And while there is beauty in that kind of dedication, there's also a danger, a quiet, creeping danger. Because in trying to be the good parent, the understanding grandparent, the patient sibling, we slowly begin to disappear from our own lives. So let's talk about something most people avoid. Let's talk about walking away from those who no longer respect you. Even if they're family, not out of anger, not to create drama, but because your time, your presence, your peace, they are precious, too precious to keep offering to those who no longer value them. Let me tell you a story, one I hear more often than I wish I did. A woman in her 70s shared this with me. Every Sunday she visits her daughter's home. It's a tradition. She brings dessert, helps clean, plays with the grandkids. She shows up with love every time. But lately, no one really talks to her. The kids are busy with devices. Her daughter's overwhelmed and distracted. Her son-in-law barely glances her way. She sits politely in the corner smiling, watching the life she helped build unfold without her in it. And when she gets home, she cries. Not because anyone was mean, not because anything went wrong, but because it felt like no one cared if she was even there. She asked me, is it me? Am I asking for too much? And I told her, what I'm telling you now. No, dear heart, you are not asking for too much. You're asking for something very simple, to be seen, to be heard, to be respected. And if those things are no longer present, if it's just habit, guilt, or routine, then that's not love. It's obligation wearing the mask of connection. And staying in that space week after week starts to do something to your soul. It teaches you that your feelings don't matter, that being sidelined is just part of aging, that this emptiness is all you can hope for now. But I'm here to say something else. You have every right to protect your peace, even from your own children, even from family you've loved your whole life. Because respect is not guaranteed by blood, it's earned through behavior. Too often we confuse patience with silence. We don't speak up because we don't want to be a burden. We hide our sadness because we don't want to make things uncomfortable. But how long can you keep swallowing that ache before it hardens into bitterness? How many times will you excuse someone's absence before you begin questioning your own worth? This isn't about cutting people off. It's about choosing yourself. It's about saying, I will no longer shrink to fit into someone else's limited affection. Because you weren't made to be tolerated. You were made to be loved. Let's talk about what real respect looks like. It's not big grand gestures. It's not expensive gifts or dramatic declarations. It's effort. It's eye contact. It's a text that says thinking of you. It's a visit that feels like a choice, not an obligation. It's a voice that lights up when it hears yours. If those things have disappeared not once but again and again, then it's okay to take a step back, not to punish them, not to play games, but to heal yourself. Because stepping back doesn't mean you don't love them. It means you love yourself enough to stop chasing crumbs of attention. You're allowed to choose peace over pain. You're allowed to say, I miss who we used to be, but I can't keep hurting just to stay close. And I know someone will say, but what if they come around? What if they're just going through something? What if I wait a little longer? Fair questions. And yes, people can change. But let me ask you, what is the cost of waiting? How many more birthdays will pass you by? How many more Sundays will feel like empty performances? And in all that waiting, how much of you disappears? You don't get a second run at your 60s or your 70s or your 80s. This is your moment, your life. And it's too valuable to keep pouring into people who've shown over and over that you are not a priority. You are not a background character in someone else's story. You are the author of your own. And you, yes, you get to decide where your energy goes. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is lovingly, calmly, and firmly say, I will no longer keep showing up where I am, no longer seen. Think of it this way. If you plant a flower in soil that refuses to nourish it, no matter how much you water it, it will still wither. That doesn't mean the flower is weak. It means the environment is wrong. So instead of blaming yourself for not blooming, maybe it's time to replant somewhere that offers warmth, light, and care. And yes, that might mean fewer visits, fewer phone calls, more quiet afternoons doing what actually brings you joy. Reading, walking, painting, learning something new. Spending time with people who lift you up, not quietly wear you down. It may feel uncomfortable at first. That's silence, that's space. But give it time. That space you created by stepping back from what hurt you, it becomes room for something better, something peaceful, something that finally gives back. Because here's the truth. You are not here to beg for attention. You are not here to earn love through suffering. You are here to be respected, to be cherished, to be free. And the moment you stop giving your energy to people who can't appreciate it, that's the moment you begin to reclaim your power. Now maybe you're wondering, but what happens when I pull away? Will they notice? Will they even care? That's a hard question, because sometimes they won't notice. They won't ask why you've been quiet. They won't call back. And that hurts. That kind of silence, it cuts deep. But that pain, sharp as it may be, is also a revelation. It tells you the truth you've been avoiding. Because when your absence feels lighter than your presence, you haven't lost a relationship. You've lost an illusion. That realization can break your heart, but it can also set you free. You no longer have to stay where you're merely tolerated. You don't have to keep chasing people who stop meeting you halfway. Because love that only flows in one direction will always, eventually run dry. And the longer you pour from your cup without being refilled, the emptier you become. Not just tired, but spiritually worn, emotionally starved. This isn't about becoming bitter. This isn't about revenge. It's about becoming wise. It's about knowing when to hold on and when to gently let go. Letting go doesn't mean you failed. It means you grew. Have you ever watched a child slowly lose interest in a toy? At first they carry it everywhere. It's new, it's exciting. But over time they toss it aside. Not because it lost its value, but because they took its presence for granted. That's how some people treat relationships. They assume you'll always be there, always saying yes, always understanding, always forgiving. And slowly, your consistency becomes invisible. But what happens when that toy goes missing? What happens when you're not there to clean up, to call first, to keep the connection alive? That's when the questions begin. That's when the realization hits. That's when they say, I didn't realize how much they meant. This isn't about playing games. It's not about manipulating people into noticing you. It's about giving them the space to feel your absence. Because if someone truly values you, they'll notice. They'll feel the quiet where your voice used to be. And if they don't, that silence speaks louder than any confrontation ever could. There's a kind of quiet dignity that grows when you stop knocking on closed doors. When you stop begging for the bare minimum from people who are capable of so much more, but choose not to give it. That's when you begin to remember who you are. You're not just the helper, not just the peacekeeper, not just the one who holds it all together. You are a whole person with needs, with a heart that deserves kindness too. And in that remembering, something powerful happens. You start asking new questions. What do I want now? What brings me joy? Who do I want around? Not out of duty, but out of genuine connection. Because it's never too late to build a new kind of life. One where your presence is appreciated, not assumed. One where your time is invested in people and places that give back. One where you're no longer trying to prove you matter, because you know that you do. There's a quote I love. You don't have to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. And yet so many of us have. We've burned through our patience, our health, our time, just trying to keep relationships alive that barely flicker in return. But love, real love, shouldn't leave you exhausted. It shouldn't shrink you. It should nourish you. It should uplift you. It should give as much as it receives. So ask yourself, what would happen if you stopped? If you stopped calling first? If you stopped visiting just to feel ignored? If you stopped bending your life around other people's convenience? Would they notice? Would they call? Would they even ask, where did you go? Because either way, the truth will be revealed. And that truth, it's a gift, even if it hurts. Because once you stop chasing what ignores you, you make space for what sees you. And let me tell you something beautiful. Some of the most meaningful relationships you'll have in this stage of life, they might come from places you never expected. A neighbor who checks in, a friend you meet in a book club, a community that welcomes you, not for who you used to be, but for who you are right now. But to receive those new blessings, you need space, emotional space, mental space, heart space. And sometimes that means stepping back from the people who once meant everything to you, because holding on is no longer healing you. Now let me be clear. This doesn't always mean cutting ties completely. Sometimes a little distance is all it takes to restore balance. Sometimes space gives others a chance to reflect too. But even if nothing changes on their end, something will change on yours. You'll stop waiting. Stop hoping for someone else to finally value you. And start choosing yourself. And that single choice transforms everything. You are not selfish for wanting respect. You are not too sensitive for needing reciprocity. You are not dramatic for stepping away from what hurts. You are human, and you are worthy of relationships that honor your presence, not just use it. So if you're sitting with these thoughts right now, I invite you to ask yourself, not with guilt, not with fear, but with compassion, what would it feel like to no longer beg for love that has gone quiet? To no longer press pause on your own life waiting for someone else to press play? You have a right to peace, to joy, to laughter that comes without tension, to conversations where your voice isn't ignored or talked over. You deserve to walk into a room and feel wanted, not just needed. There's a difference. One lifts you, the other drains you, and the beautiful truth is you get to choose. You get to decide who walks beside you in this next season of life. You are not bound by old expectations. You are not obligated to keep playing a role that no longer fits. You are free, and that freedom, it's one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself right now. Because if you're feeling like something's missing not just in others but in you, maybe it's time to listen. That ache, that tug, that quiet discomfort, it's your soul asking for something deeper, something more honest, more kind. And the first step to finding that is often letting go of what no longer loves you well. There's something deeply empowering about realizing you don't need anyone's permission to live your life with dignity. For so long, you may have put others first. Your children, your siblings, your spouse. You waited, you adjusted, you stayed quiet, you gave more, thinking things would get better. But somewhere in the middle of all that giving, you began to feel forgotten, not just by them, but by yourself. And that's where real change begins, not with blame, not with anger, but with one quiet decision: no more. Not out of bitterness, not to punish anyone, but because you're done trying to earn what should have been freely given. You're done bending until your back aches just to keep peace. You're done mistaking self-sacrifice for love, because real love doesn't ask you to vanish. Yes, some people won't understand this shift. They'll say you've changed. They might call you distant, cold. They'll ask why you've stopped calling, why you've pulled back, why you've gone quiet. Let them wonder. Let them feel your absence, because it's in that space, in that stillness, where the truth speaks the loudest. People often don't realize what they had until it's gone. Your voice, your energy, your presence, these things were never small. But when you're always available, always saying yes, always holding it all together, people start to take it for granted. And it's only when you step back that they pause and ask, where did they go? Here's something no one tells you. That absence you create, it's not just a message to them, it's a message to you. It says, I value my peace more than pleasing people who don't see me. It says, I choose my well-being over worn-out expectations. And the more you honor that truth, the lighter you become. Imagine this: waking up and not checking your phone for a message that never comes. Walking through your day without wondering if someone will remember your birthday. Letting go of that weight. Can you feel how freeing that would be? Because you don't need to be needed to be valuable. Your worth isn't measured by how much you give. It's measured by how much of yourself you keep. And if someone's love disappears the moment you stop doing things for them, that was never love. That was convenience, dressed up like care. There is power in choosing solitude over disrespect. There is peace in silence, when that silence means you've stopped begging to be heard. And there is quiet strength in saying, I deserve more than this. Maybe it means going for a walk without needing to check in with someone who never checks in with you. Maybe it means saying no to a visit that drains you and yes to a quiet afternoon with music, sunlight, or your own thoughts. And in doing so, you send a message to the world. My time matters. My heart matters. I matter. We often fear that if we stop showing up, we'll be forgotten. But the truth is, if your absence makes no difference to someone, your presence never really mattered to them in the first place. And that's not a loss. That's a revelation. Because now you're free to invest in what truly brings you life. A hobby you've put off for years. A new friendship. A sunrise walk with no destination. A morning cup of coffee in silence without worry. You're allowed to build a life that makes you feel whole. Let me be clear, choosing yourself is not selfish, it's sacred. It keeps your soul alive. It sets an example for others, even your children, of what it means to live with boundaries and grace. Because here's the truth, people learn how to treat you based on what you allow. If you allow silence, they'll give you more of it. If you allow disrespect, they'll repeat it. But if you calmly draw a line and say, this is where I stop giving without receiving, some people will step up. And those who don't, they were never really standing beside you to begin with. You don't need dramatic goodbyes. You don't need final confrontations. You just need a quiet, grounded decision. My peace is no longer up for compromise. So if you find yourself sitting alone, don't see it as a sign something's wrong. See it as a chance to finally hear yourself again, to return to your own heart, to reconnect with the person you've always been, wise, kind, resilient, and whole. You've spent so much of your life caring for others. Now it's time to care for you. Let the phone be silent. Let the door stay closed. Let the ones who never appreciated you wonder where you went. Because where you are now, right here with yourself, that's where the healing begins. That's where life begins again. There's something beautiful about reaching a stage in life where you no longer feel the need to explain yourself. You don't owe anyone a speech about why you pulled away. Your quiet joy, your calmer heart, your lighter step, that's the explanation. You've spent decades holding space for others, being the one they called, the one who stayed up, the one who gave up time, sleep, and even dreams. And maybe, just maybe, you hoped they'd remember, that one day they'd say, "I see it now, thank you." But even if that day never comes, I want you to know it mattered. Your love, your presence, your patience, it all mattered. Even if it was never acknowledged out loud. But now, it's your turn. Your turn to matter to yourself. Your turn to build a life that isn't waiting for anyone, but instead filled with things that bring you peace, pride, and purpose. So if today you feel a little sad, a little forgotten, let it be okay. Then take a breath, stand tall, and remind yourself, you're not waiting anymore. You're living. You're not chasing attention that never arrives. You're choosing yourself, and that's where everything changes.